What's up, people? Hopefully, you guys are hanging in there with us. No intro tonight. Not even gonna get into all of that stuff. We're just gonna go straight into our pod tonight. We're here for a good time, not a long time, people. But we do have some news to talk about. Several exits, had a couple of commitments or whatnot today. Looks like we had a huge commitment today in the eyes of many. So. We're going to definitely jump into that. As you already know, Chris Griffen, Chris with a K, here from the Horns Down podcast, and Chris Mason, Mr. Sooners 360 himself. Again, that's our basically kind of like the central place that you can get your recruiting news between amongst all three of us, with Jason as well with the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast, but Students 360, the Patreon, the website, and all that and more. And Chris Mason is active on Twitter, and we know that he's going to do a separate pod at some point tonight detailing what's going on in the high school ranks for at least the 27 class and beyond. So, people, we are here to talk about portal comeback, right? Of course. Chris Mason, go ahead and let us know. Looks like we got a commitment today, and then we'll keep going on and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, so OU got one commitment today. They're now up to 10 players that they pulled from the portal. They got Cole Sullivan, linebacker from Michigan. He is a sophomore, so he will have 2 years to play in Norman. He's 6'3", 230. He had a very good year at Michigan this past season. He was pretty much Michigan was hoping he was going to pretty much be the centerpiece of their defense next year. They're losing some pieces. They're losing Jason Barsham to the NFL, and they've lost some guys to the portal, and losing some other guys to the NFL or just graduation out of eligibility, for whatever that term means these days. And they really didn't want to lose him. I mean, the Michigan message boards have been obsessed on the Cole Sullivan hunt for the last 3 days. And it's gone back and forth. He had I don't think they knew he was going to be showing up in Norman. That kind of blindsided some of the Michigan fans. And I didn't know that was going to happen either. So OU kind of brought him in under the radar. He had a good visit over the weekend. And then he went back to Michigan Monday. And folks, it kind of went back and forth. OU called in the cavalry and sent Brent to Ohio to do a in-home visit. Brent's a master of in-home visits back from the day, from his recruiting days as an assistant coach. So, he's a master of the living room from a certain perspective. And then he was going back and forth. And then Wednesday morning, I was doing a show with Jason, and all of a sudden our comments blew up that OU. No, it's on. We're on the Hall of Fame. We're on Hall of Fame. Jason, you should have been in the comments. We're on Hall of Fame. I think that's what it shows us. So I was on the show this morning with Jason Watkins, and it blew up that OU had actually. Looked like they had gotten the kid, and it went from, Jason and I were trying to scramble to find the information, and all of a sudden he went live. It went live on Twitter that he had verbal to OU. So OU viewed him as the best linebacker in the portal. They upped their NIL offer, I think, at least twice to try and get this done, and I think they view Cole Sullivan as maybe a key to the future of the middle of the OU defense after Kip leaves next year. So I think they view him as a starter. It's Kip Lewis and Cole Sullivan. If somehow they get Owen Heineke back, you have a three-way starter. You have three starters at linebacker for OU, and they'll make that work. But that's where it was. It's a big addition. Dari Nokia had like an NFL, draft guy talking about Sullivan and saying that he's got NFL first-round pick potential. And that's how much they liked him. So it was a really all-round effort by OU, Nagy and their staff getting him on campus. OU then were doing a good job pitching him. Nate Dreiling, Brent, Goodwin, all those folks pitching him. And OU's pulled out a significant piece from the portal. And I would say definitely a starter. I mean, he's going to start next to Kip Lewis. That's the way things are right now.
So the way you talk about him is inside, outside, somewhere in that range or whatnot, at least for that first year. You don't see him.
Mike. He's a Mike.
Mike. He's a Mike. Excuse me. So Mike. So that's what you have him at. So obviously, I think that some people just see the intangibles, the measurables, all the rest of that, and they think Cheetah. I know some people were saying that, hey, he could possibly play Cheetah. Maybe you could see him in some of those roles or whatever next year, or do you think that he's just gonna? You think he solely focuses on playing Mike?
I think bringing him in and he's going to be on sort of like a fire hose in terms of absorbing the Brent defense. I do think he picked up a lot from last year's defense from the Martindale guy. He ran a pretty complex scheme. He was an NFL, DC that Michigan brought in. But I do think from that viewpoint, I think you're going to want to just have him dedicated to one spot, Mike, and then you could move around Kip and Heineke if you bring them in. If you're able to bring back Heineke for some reason, you can rotate those guys around and just have him focus on one job year one, and then maybe in year two, you allow him to do Will, you allow him to do some different stuff. But I think year one, you focus exclusively on Mike.
Sooner Ace, this is a good comment right here. He said OU linebackers have been great at stopping the run, but have struggled with their zone drops. Cole Sullivan fixes that. If you go and watch some of the film that's been put out there on OU Twitter, OU side of things, then you'll definitely see what Sooner Ace is talking about. I know that's something that if I only had one gripe with Kip, it would be his zone drops, right?
Right.
You saw it in the Bama game. Cuevas got behind him again, and that happened. So that's just I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts about it. He is a guy who looks like he likes to go and tackle, very disciplined. He footwork is phenomenal. Leverage, all the rest of that stuff for as big and tall as he is, but also he's very instinctual. He will play if you're telegraphing, he's gonna be there in that area.
Yeah, he did a good job getting interceptions last year. I think this is a good segue comment from Logan Light, who's given us a $10 super chat.
Yeah.
Could we get screwed if Owen doesn't get his extra year and we don't get another linebacker in the portal closes before we can replace him? That's a good question, and the linebacker thing has been kind of a juggling back and forth. What I would say is that OU's very confident that James Nesta is about to have a Taylor Wine-like third year in the defense. Okay.
Interesting.
It seems to be the third year in the defense tends to be when guys kind of take off, right? We saw it with Taylor Wine. We saw it with Peyton Bowen this year when he was healthy. This is his third year in the defense, so you kind of see that. We saw it from Grayson Halton. So different guys have made big third year leaps, and I think James Nesta is one of the guys they think will do that. OU does have Taylor Heim, who could be a will linebacker, depending upon how things shake out. He kind of lost some momentum because it slipped to Kendall Daniels because Daniels was such a kind of freak at Cheetah. So that's something to watch. Also, they're bringing in 4 linebackers that'll all be there during spring ball. I think Jacob Curry could be a freshman of influence. I think if Bo Jandro is healthy, he's someone else who could also help. So there is some younger depth coming. But if OU gets indication that Owen is not going to get a waiver, I think you will see OU have a portal linebacker they're going to bring in for depth reasons. It may not be a superstar, but it'll be somebody that Nagy and his staff has worked with Brent and Dreiling to identify some guys that they have in their kind of back pocket.
So we know about the potential, about the upside of a Cole Sullivan, but the real question I think Sooner fans should be asking, and I'll ask this to you, Chris Mason, but how do you feel about Cole Sullivan first year in that defense, especially at the linebacker position, which they say is probably the hardest to learn in that BV system?
Yeah, I mean, you'd like him to be able to, play Mike and have Heineke at will next to him and that. But I think, he's played linebacker, he's an experienced linebacker. He's played in a complex system before. I think the learning curve here is OU's narrowed the learning curve to as much as they actually can. So from that standpoint. Wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't get the green dot. And from that view, I mean, Chris, I don't think you have Kip out there a whole lot in spring, right? You unload the fire hose and you tell Cole Sullivan, it's coming. Take a gulp. Try and not get knocked over by it, and then you obviously would give Nesta and the other young linebackers as much runway as we can give them in spring. So it's a question mark, but I don't think it is as dire as some folks may make it out because he has experience at linebacker.
All right. Well, keep on moving, Chris Mason. I'm excited about Cole Sullivan. I'm excited that you can go and get guys like that, right? I think Owen Waffle was the guy that we were hoping last year that we could get like that young guy on the rise that we believe if he gets in our system, we can take him to a whole nother level. Not saying that he wasn't getting good development because with all the hoopla and all the extra and craziness that goes on at Michigan, they still produce on the field and they still produce NFL guys left and right. So, to be able to go and steal a guy like that in the midst of all the stuff that's going on up there that's pretty big time right there. And again, Chris Mason, it feels good because why? Winning heals things. Okay. And I think that's what we're working towards. We need to make the playoffs and go above and beyond what we did this year. Can't have another 8-4 season. Can't lose the momentum that we've had in recruiting. And I think our recruiting expert here, Chris Mason, will definitely agree with that statement.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about all the pieces, you just moved 12 months, right? Where are we from 12 months ago?
Yeah.
We've had a 10-win season and a playoff appearance. We've had a good end to recruiting, 2026, and our 2027 recruiting class is flying. And then Nagy and his full front office staff for a portal season that they were prepared for the last 4 months, maybe longer than that, depending upon what Nagy would say. They have executed at an elite level, and getting Cole Sullivan is just another example of that. I mean, a guy they targeted right off the bat, and they got him on campus, and they managed to beat back Michigan and get his commitment. I mean, Texas was relying upon getting two Michigan offensive linemen, and they couldn't get it done. Both of those guys are going back to Michigan, and Texas is back to square one on trying to fill their O-line gaps. OU needed a linebacker, went and got the guy they wanted. And and as you said, he now has 2 years in the OU system, so it's a great ad.
Oh, definitely a great ad. All right, Chris Mason, what else we got on that? Well, I think that was the only.
That's the only addition, yeah.
Yeah.
So the portal giveth and the portal taketh away is kind of the next segment. So we had three exits. Two are going to sting a little bit for some OU fans, and one we've kind of already moved on, and we'd already kind of portaled this guy 2 weeks ago. So Zion Reagan's entered the portal. Okay, no big surprise there. He's heading to Mississippi State probably. He's going to take a visit there. Lebby wants the smallest, fastest wide receiver core in the history of college football, and Zion Reagan's fits perfectly with that model. The blows were on defense. Sam Omosigho hit the portal pretty much immediately right after Sullivan did. Now, if you guys will recall previous conversations we've had, I've expressed a concern that OU had 4 senior linebackers potentially if Samo and Owen came back, and Kobe and Sama and Kobe. Those 4 guys are 4 seniors. And that doesn't do OU very much. That's not helping OU from a development and a roster standpoint. Having 4, you're too deep being 4 seniors. It's great to have that level of experience, but then they all leave, and then the next year you've got no experienced linebackers in the system at all. So this is kind of where the crunch is coming. Cole Sullivan probably takes snaps and reps away from Sam Omosigho, and he's only got OU should have redshirted Sam. at one point, but they just couldn't find a year to make that work. So Sam is a senior, just like Kip Lewis returning. So from
Chris Mason, he may call me a lie, but I swear we talked the other day and he said, "Hey, so I think we should redshirt Sammy this year." I said, "Why?
that's
Why would
why
you even do that?
that's why
Why would you do that?"
that's why you redshirt him. Not that he would be willing to do that because he
Yeah,
wants to play, but you know, maybe he can have tonsillitis
like Chambliss.
like
Yeah,
Chambliss. So from that perspective, that's why Samo's hitting the portal, right? Is because Sullivan is probably going to take his starting job and reduce his minutes and reduce his snaps. And if Owen Heineke comes back, it's going to be even worse. So if you're Samo, you're hitting the portal, and you're going to be doing what you need to do. Yes, I said redshirt. You're right, Unc. That's what I would have done. I would have done it last year, though.
yeah. He was
I
like,
would
"You
have
should
done
do that."
found some convenient injury and said, Sam, you need to sit out for a little while.
Yeah,
But that's why I was hoping for the 5th year eligibility thing. So because that would mean Sam would have 2 years, not 1 year, and that would mean that that it wouldn't be such of a crunch for him to. He wants to start. He wants to get his tape. He wants to play. He needs reps. So I think Sam will hit the portal, and he will instantly get a big deal from somebody who will view the OU defense and view Sam's best plays and think that's the linebacker I need to lead my linebacker group. So I fully expect Sam to get a good P5 offer and a really nice NIL deal. So
I go rip it up in the Big 12, man. I keep saying, dude, just go to the Big 12. If you're a quarterback or you're somebody who needs to kind of pad your stats to show that, hey, I've done it at the highest level in the SEC in college football, I can do it anywhere and I can go dominate a league, go to the Big 12, go to the ACC, something like that. I mean, he needs to go somewhere that is going to allow him just to attack, right? Not think the game out, just go attack.
yeah, it's exactly. So I think he'll find a spot and he'll get some good money and it'll work out all right for Sam. I
Yeah.
mean, physically, the kid's gifted. He's going to test off the charts. An NFL team will pick him up. We'll look at his measurables and be like, well, he's kind of all over the place here. Yeah, but once we get him into our program, we can. Once he gets to the NFL, we can coach him up. We can't coach up the fact he's like 6'1", 235,
Yeah.
and he looks he looks incredible out there, and his agility, speed, and
Is
speed
he
to
a,
power is unreal.
is he a more like raw, like Brian Asamoah? Is that a good comparison?
He's thicker than Brian Asamoah, though. He's
Okay.
probably bigger and thicker. I mean, Brian Asamoah was definitely a will linebacker.
Yeah.
I think Kobe's somewhere in between. I mean, I could see Kobe being as big as 240 by the time he combine and would get ready for the combine and could look look like
Yeah.
$1 million. So, but yeah, so I think Samo, that was a big, that was sort of a cause and effect. Then the thing that's been rumored and flying around that finally hit is Jaden Hardy. He's sort of our fourth safety. And with Amarian Robinson kind of on if Amarian Robinson looks like he's staying for now, and with Amarian Robinson kind of, creeping up on him, because Amarian's a bigger kid and faster. So I think Jaden Hardy was like, he was start his agents and folks are starting to tell him if you hit the portal, there's money and starting time for you out there. And I think he felt like he needed to do that. I think the OU coaches were very honest with him that Peyton and Boganowski are our starting safeties.
Yeah.
And Amarian Robinson's creeping up on you. And we've got other kids coming in. And depending upon how we handle the cheetah, Reggie Powers is also going to get reps at safety.
That's true.
So I think, and Reggie's a much bigger kid, so I think Jaden is making a smart decision, hitting the portal while while he's probably got the most attention, and I think he's going to get a good offer at a P4 program.
I Chris Mason, if I may just cut in real quick, I thought that I thought that Jaden Hardy would. I really like Jaden Hardy. You know, I sang his praises on and off screen whenever we would talk. But man, you know, one thing that was constant, and I know that I never gave him enough credit, but I Boganowski is rounding himself into shape. I mean, to me, I think he's. I don't know. It wasn't so much like the big hits and all the rest of that stuff, and we know he will take somebody's head off, but he just felt like he was becoming more and more of a complete like safety, right? Like he was a guy that went from bam bam and this and that and coming downhill, and we thought he'd be perfect cheetah to like, no, this dude can actually play safety. And he actually made plays. And you know, if you go back to that Tennessee game, it's easy to see, especially on some of those zone plays where they're running, you know, they have robbers and different things like that because Peyton Bowen, RSJ, a lot of those guys are doing their thing, but he's active in that midfield, kind of being that defender right there. So it's just one of those things where his development I think, has kind of gone unnoticed or under the radar you know, I think that's the best way to put it. But Marion Robinson, we know that he's basically champing at the bits to get in there. You're going to have other kids. You got more freshmen that are coming there, better, good size, you know, better ability. That's the reason why, you know, Marcus Wimberly. I think the best spot for him probably would have been him trying to either aim for Cheetah or move down a linebacker, right? But you know, obviously he's not here. But again, that room right there is so competitive and so stacked, right? With Peyton Bowen, Boganowski, RSJ was there before he declared. So I mean, it was just stacked. And so now you got these other kids that are chomping at the bits, and I just don't know. So definitely hate to lose him, but you know, again, him and Sammy, I hope that they land at great spots for them and go on and do big and better things.
Yeah, I think Hardy could maybe come back. I don't think he really wanted to go.
Uh huh.
So that's something to watch there. I think Sam O sees the writing on the wall that okay, all right. Sullivan and Kip are the two alphas in the linebacker room. Let me go somewhere else and get my own star power. So I think that, and you got to understand that. I mean, a lot of folks, and I think OU could pick up a safety in the portal if they want to. If somebody
Yeah.
like Dakota Fields, who could be a safety, by the way, he's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's not a small guy.
Hmm.
If somebody in the safety pops that Brandon Hall recruited prior, or somebody from one of the better one of the safeties they were looking at, I think there's a chance that OU could say, oh yeah, we'll take that kid and add him to the mix.
Yeah.
So
So
so I think that's something to keep an eye out, because if you added a cheetah kind of linebacker, and you can let Reggie play more safety. That's something also to think about as well.
I was just looking at the comments trying to see. Hold on. Oh, Trey Young got traded to the Wizards. All right. Okay.
Yeah, the Hawks are
Yeah.
done. The Hawks are done with Ice Trey, and he needed to change of pace. I mean, I hate the fact he's going to the NBA oblivion that is the Wizards, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. It is what
So
it is. He'll ball out there for the remainder of the season, miss the playoffs, and then recoup, and then wherever else he wants to go. I think that
and,
he
and
has
he's
on
and,
option.
and
Yeah.
he's going to collect $55 million doing it. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not sure how much. So one thing is, so that's the three losses, and OU is. The one thing, Chris, is that OU is now up to, I think it's 23, 24 kids in the portal.
Hmm.
So from that perspective, we've got 10 acquisitions. Yeah, I have us at 24 kids. So that's a lot of that. You're getting up there now. So 24 kids. I don't think OU is going to sign 24. New portal targets. We'll get to that in just a second, Toroki. It's a good question, and it's what we're going to talk about next. So Chris, I think the first thing we need to talk about is defensive tackle, because that's the one. Now you got a linebacker, right? We got two tight ends, we got two wide receivers, we got two offensive linemen that can help us. I think really The position that's got to be filled is that defensive tackle. We need a Marcus Strong replacement.
Yeah, you need a
And
stuffer. Yeah,
and I said some names. The Illinois guy, the front office is looking at some other guys. Looking at a guy from Iowa State. Well, presuming he's still at Iowa State and he's not part of the Nittany Cyclones.
the Nittany Cyclones.
Nittany Cyclones, Big Ten champions. Um, uh, Iowa State couldn't win the Big 12 this year, but that roster is going to win the Big 10 next year? Okay, I don't quite get that, but whatever. But there's a name that's kind of floating around. I have to say, I think I officially first saw it on OU Insider with Brandon Drum, but I'd seen it elsewhere, and maybe they cribbed it from there. I'm not sure. But there's some social media follows that indicate something might be up. Is OU might be kicking the tires on Alabama defensive tackle James Smith.
Interesting.
And he was a big time recruit out of high school. He's played well for Bama. I think OU's stuck in a corner, Chris. They could pay a certain amount for a guy that might just be a piece in the rotation, or they could step it up a little bit more and maybe get a guy who under Todd Bates could be someone very, very good. And that's kind of James Smith's profile. So we'll see if something comes with that. His high school teammate, I think, is the Quora Russa kid, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, Quay Rasaw.
Quay Rasaw. Quay Rasaw. I don't know if OU would bring him in as well. I don't quite know where he fits in the OU defense with the additions that they have and the players they already have. So, but Smith would be if they could make the Smith thing work. You know, Jim Nagy would be approaching, you know, Hall of Fame GM status in his first season, because that would be a significant addition. You add him to the defensive line mix. In high school, I think he was something like 6'5", 6'3", like 300, something like that. Let me pull up what Alabama listed him at this year, and can confirm his classification and all that. Yep. All right, so they say he's 6'3", 310, and he would be a sophomore. So that would be
that's the thing. That's the thing.
That's the sweet spot, right? That if he could slide into that rotation.
Is he in the portal or is it?
He's in the portal. He's
Okay.
He's visiting places. I think OU is hoping to try and bring him in this weekend. Keep your unks coming up. I'll get to that next.
All right.
But he would be interesting to pick up. He's from Montgomery, Alabama. Bates has huge contacts in Alabama. Knows this kid. OU tried to get on him last year, but obviously with the bad recruiting class, with the bad season OU had, they just couldn't add him to the 2025 recruiting class. It wasn't something OU was prepared to close on. So he's an interesting guy, and would be, for that's odd. Okay, and for OU he would be he slots in, and he's basically, he had moderate stats this year. 26. No, that's the wrong James Smith, isn't it? Oh, that's not the right one. No, that's not the right one. That's something different. So he's somebody who Todd Bates could turn into a serious elite defensive tackle. Yeah, I think so it's weird. ESPN says that he's a junior. Why is Alabama saying he's a freshman? All right. Okay. So he's a junior.
Yeah.
So he would have. He's played 3 seasons. So he would basically be a senior. So you would only have him for 1 season. Yeah, he entered the portal with Russell, who was also his teammate. So you would have him for 1 season. But I think that would still be worth it in terms of he could have a huge season for OU with Todd Bates. So we'll see if that's where OU wants to go. But they are tracking some other names, some guys in different classifications. The work kid from Mississippi State chose Missouri. Far as I know it, the Peyton Joseph kid from Georgia Tech is still visiting. And OU is bringing in Davion Dozier at wide receiver tomorrow. And I think his App State teammate who just visited OSU is also coming in. His last name is Nix. And I don't know a lot about him other than he's coming in.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that a kid called Kamari Maxwell from Austin P is claiming an OU offer.
What is he?
He's a wide receiver. He's a freshman. Had like 300 yards receiving. I literally, he's posted it on. It's weird. He's one of the first names to say he has an offer that really hasn't been floating around anywhere else from the follows and tracking. So it's a little bit of a strange situation from that standpoint. If you want to pull up Unk's comment,
There he is, right there.
yep. Last time I checked, so we got 2 losses. So Hardy's gone. That's 1. And then Omasigo would be another. And we got Sullivan. OU's at about like 88, 87 spots, and they're managing to 105. I think they'd want to be in the high 90s. So I think you're going to see. I think the number of exits I think has escalated a little bit beyond what OU thought was going to happen. So I would have thought OU at 10 portal entries right now, or portal acquisitions. That was, I thought 12 to 14 was maybe the tops of where they want to go. I can see OU going to 16, 17 with some of the losses. I think an additional safety makes sense, and an additional linebacker probably makes sense as well. So that puts you to 12. I know they want 2 more offensive linemen. That's 14. Cooper Alexander hit the portal. So could that be your third tight end that you want to add? And I know they want to add a third tight end.
Who's the third man? We gotta know who's the third guy.
So that could be maybe that works out. Of course, everyone's saying, well, isn't he just going to go to Penn State like every other player from ISU? Sure, that's probably a good bet. But overall, I mean, OU's recruiting his younger brother, Case Alexander, and most recruiting analysts expect OU to win that battle. So I think that does give OU at least a hook to say, well, before you go to just choose Penn State, come down. Wait a couple of days. We'll have a new tight end coach. Come down. It's a different environment. We're using the tight end differently. Come down and see it, because Cooper Alexander is like 6'4", 250, so with a real receiving game. So that would be a nice addition, a third piece in the tight end for the new tight end coach, whoever that may be. And obviously, we've been talking about the name. I've mentioned the name to you a couple of days. All signs equal that OU is trying to lock down Brian Ellis from Bama. That seems to be the number one. That's the play at tight end coach. We won't see anything else occur there until something happens with that. So that's what I'm hearing there. That it's going to be Brian Ellis unless something else changes, or he could choose somebody else. He could choose not to go to OU, and then they'll double back. I'm guessing they would double back to Lee Pack, and then if Lee Pack says no, I'm staying at K-State, then we'll be back to something else.
All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to know on that front, as far as just like any other projections or whatnot? Or do you any expectations for tomorrow as far as who's going to commit or who's not?
I think if OU makes a push, they could get Davion Dozier at wide receiver with all the wide receiver losses they've had. I think that's something that could occur. We'll see, but I think that is definitely something that could occur from an addition standpoint. Other than that, does OU, Corey Sigler from Arkansas State hasn't signed with anybody. I don't know if OU tries to get that going again, but I doubt it. The Ramsey kid from Kentucky did sign with somebody, so that avenue's closed. Xavier Gilliam looks like from Penn State looks like he's trending to Tennessee.
Yeah,
Could OU get him in for a visit? I don't know. Owen Waffle signed with Duke, and some of these other guys, they're doing their due diligence. They're following some kids and turning over, basically scouring college football for defensive tackles. So I don't think there's a good chance. I don't think there's any chance that they renegotiate with Strong. I think some bridges were burned there. I don't have any insight into how that negotiation went, but I don't think they're going to double back to Marcus Strong.
okay.
Doesn't sound like that's a window that's open.
I think he's going to Florida.
That'll make the most sense. Yeah. I mean, he's from Florida. They've lost most of their defensive linemen. So it would make sense for he could be a starting defensive tackle for Florida. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Kentucky's kind of throwing some money around, needs some personnel because they've lost a lot of personnel. That's a possibility. I kind of expect him to fall in the next day or two, I think. But other than that, things are, after the flurry of Monday or Tuesday, you just can't meet that level of chaos that we were discussing on Monday and Tuesday night. I mean,
yeah. I mean, OU's. And, the cool thing about it is that I think here in the next week and a half we'll be able to just not even a week and a half. I think in the next week I think we'll be able to just kind of chill for the most part and just
but
watch
next Friday the portal closes.
Yeah. So yeah, I would expect by this weekend you pretty much lock up everything that you want, and then go from there.
I mean, they're certainly not sitting around just trying to play and see what's going on. So let's just see what happens there. Where's Cam Coleman going? I don't know. I mean, if you ask me, my opinion, he wants his agents are looking for the biggest bag of money they can find, and that rainbow is probably in Lubbock.
Yeah, either Lubbock or A&M.
Yeah, Lubbock or A&M, who will do anything to probably keep him away from Texas. So, yeah, I expect OU to add another tight end. They brought in the Yale kid. He's going some other places, so we'll see what happens there. I think they're probably still talking to the giant German kid, Honig, from UConn. He hasn't signed anywhere. The Tulsa kid, Foley, signed with Louisville, which is kind of a surprise. I thought he would end up at either SMU or Notre Dame, maybe. So I think that's what's going on there. OU could bring in another tight end. Again, I'd like to see them bring in somebody who has some years to play and could help a little bit more of a two-way tight end. So Cooper Alexander fits that, but it's odd. Penn State has tight ends already. Two of the best Iowa State tight ends, I think, have chosen Penn State. So I don't know why you would be the third guy going over there, but I don't know. It's a little strange. There's probably a tight end who's staying on the Penn State roster, I think. And again, I also think there's some juice coming to the tight end position once you name a coach. So Lucas Kelly asked, "Would Ellis bring a tight end from Bama?" That could definitely happen. Or someone would hit the portal. Someone will hit the portal based upon him moving, and maybe something comes open to Oklahoma based upon once he's officially announced, if that's what happens.
Well, any other questions, people? Keep them coming if y'all got them. Everybody is going crazy right now with saying, "Wake up!" I am up. I'm listening to Chris Mason split this gospel. What are we talking about? No, James Smith would be great. Again, people, I'm excited. I think we've. If you want to put this in NBA terms, what our portal is like, I think we have the greatest plus minus ever in portal history, Chris Mason. That's just me. I'm sorry.
No,
Uh,
I mean, I when you think about what we've added, and you think about when you add up the sum total of what's leaving, not to be harsh on any of these kids, but really, we haven't lost a single starter.
mm-mm.
And on our two deep, we've maybe lost, you know, we've lost three or four guys, and that's it. And on defense, we've probably replaced a couple of those spots, and on offense, we've replaced most of the two deep exits that we've had.
Yeah,
And when you think about the upgrade at tight end, it's night and day. The wide
it
receiver
is.
upgrades are significant,
Yeah,
and the offensive line pieces are key. And do we lose a lot of offensive linemen to the portal? Yes, but when Troy Everett, Sexton, and Taylor were just completely unreliable.
you lost most, if not all, of your injury report guys. That's
Yeah,
what. Yeah,
that you look at the injury report, and are we do any of us like that Gentry Williams dinged up his other shoulder and needs shoulder surgery again? No. We were all pulling for him to have a healthy year and put two seasons together and go pro. But yep, he was out. Jacoby Johnson took advantage of him being out. Guillory did. Eli Bowen was back from his injury and played. It just, the bodies we're losing. You can, OU's going to be able has replaced through their development process on defense, and the bodies we're losing on offense are either injured or ineffective. And I hate to be that blunt, but that's kind of the way it is.
as long as you're not as blunt as you were about KJ Daniels, my gosh,
Was I wrong? Was I wrong about that?
nah, you wouldn't. That was wild. All right, Chris Mason, we got some questions real quick. Let's knock these out. So Owen Long, what's going on with that right there? Just circle back to that
I
line.
think it's a Heineke Long situation. If OU gets a definitive answer from Owen Heineke, they'll make a run at Owen Long.
All
If they
right.
don't, then they're still in a holding pattern. Okay, so I think OU next week, after they've taken care of some other business, we'll see what's going on with the running backs in the portal. See if there's a connection they have with a player. Maybe they'll reach out to them and say, "We don't have RB1 money for you, but we've got like RB3 money for you." And some of those guys, from a pride, ego standpoint, will say, "Get lost." Maybe there'll be somebody who's like, "Well, talk to me about your running back room." And maybe OU finds something that works.
All right. So True Oak, he kind of asked those questions. So obviously you talked about more O line. That's the word that's been floating out there. And Chris Mason said that earlier in the show that
At
there
least
are
at
going to be.
least two or three guys, I would
Uh-huh.
think.
And then as far as just quarterback, do you add another quarterback?
You've got four scholarship quarterbacks. I'm not hearing anything about a quarterback.
All right.
So they like some combination of the guys they have. I don't think they go for another edge. If you watch if you like me and suffered through the Under Armour game on Saturday, and that's a terrible product at this point. It's just lousy.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be.
But Krull was obliterating offensive lineman in that game. I mean, he literally bull rushed and put a 330-pound offensive lineman on his ass.
Mhm.
So, do we need another edge? No, we don't. Jake Krull's coming in early. He's going to put on some weight, and if we need some reps behind Okoye, PJ, and Wine, and now Ozawalu, depending upon where he plays. And let's not forget Wyatt Gilmore and CJ Nixon are coming. So I don't think we need another edge player.
All right, let's see. Do y'all think that the Harris kid from Arkansas will start at right tackle?
Gabe Eichert does. So that's one opinion. I think there's a strong possibility he does. At a minimum, he is going to force Foji and Fasusi to keep up to keep up with their games. So I like having the sixth offensive lineman, the starter, true starter that they picked up, being a swing tackle. So who could also play guard. So I think it's an interesting point. But I think if you said right now, does he start at right tackle? I would guess yes. How much do I think James Smith would cost? Well, it's a 1-year contract, so you're not having to commit 2 years worth of money. If you told me David Stone makes $1 million, say, I don't know that he does, but let's just pretend that's what he makes. I think James Smith would cost you somewhere in the say 750 to 800 range for a year.
Interesting.
That's my guess.
Another question here. Let's see. Hopefully, we got 2 more questions, y'all. Let's see.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Someone's asking me about the Brewster kid.
Oh, I was going to end it on that one. I
All
had
right.
a comment
Great.
response to that one. Go ahead.
All right, so Elijah Thomas, he's the unique. I mean, so I have a piece of advice for Emmett Jones. Don't suggest that true freshmen compare to NFL rookies of the year and then not play them.
Yeah.
So don't talk up kids in August like that if you ain't going to play them a whole bunch in the fall. So, this is a spring for Elijah Thomas to basically take over and be the third or fourth wide receiver in the room, right? He's got the talent. He's got the skills. We've brought in guys. He needs to go ahead and take over. OU is going to play a deeper wide receiver rotation next year. I can pretty much guarantee you that. The conversations from up above, Nagy, Brent, have been very clear to Arbuckle and Emmett Jones. And you can argue about who you think where that limited rotation lies with. It's been very clear. We need a deeper rotation of wide receivers playing. We need to get more guys, more chances, and more reps.
What? Say, Chris Mason. That's a wet dream, boy. Like, that's all. I'm gonna leave it right there. That's a wet dream.
I literally, my sources have said that Nagy basically issued this as an edict or a memo given to Arbuckle and to Brent Venables from Jim Nagy to Ben Arbuckle, Emmett Jones. Play more fucking wide receivers, especially the elite high school guys I just paid a bunch of money to acquire.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's got to happen.
It has to happen. We need to get off the wide receiver merry-go-round from the portal. One guy's fine, but we need to be off this whole 3 or 4 guys every year nonsense. And we just signed 4 high school wide receivers.
UTEP and New Mexico can't be the only games that you see those freshmen next year. You need to be able to know exactly who's going to be able to help you down the line and who's not, who's going to develop.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And if Thomas and Choice can't get it done, then Pettit and Rogers step on down and go kick ass.
Let's do it. All right. So you got a Brewster question here. People, I will say this right here. If you want to know about that, unless Chris Mason just wants to go answer, he's about to do a separate pod. So you could just tune into that to get the information. So
I'm feeling benevolent.
All
so
right,
I will answer this question.
Go ahead, Chris Mason.
So obviously Tech gave him a big-ass bundle of money. And they also gave a big-ass bundle of money to Cooper Hackett, and OU was able to turn that situation around. Now, Hackett's from Oklahoma and, grew up in a town where I think Teddy Lehman Street is every street in that town of Fort Gibson. So that helped us there. But all I will tell you is he was pretty much around Crew Jones, Jake Krull, and Zane Rowe all week. And Zane Rowe is probably going to be a Sooner, so I can guarantee they weren't talking to him about their favorite restaurants in Lubbock. Because I don't think there are any decent restaurants in Lubbock. So I think OU will continue to work him, but OU's about to pick up an elite looking nose guard this weekend, I believe, and all part of what I'll be talking about on my pod. So I think the window for OU to have a bunch of money to spend on Jalen Brewster, we'll see. OU's got bigger. OU's lining kids up, and they want Cooper Witten badly, and there's going to be a bag for that too. So at linebacker, they want him, and they want some other players at cornerback and safety. Some big time recruits they're looking at there. So you got to pay for all of these pieces. They want another off. They need two more offensive linemen, and they want an elite tight end once they have that coach in place. And they've been tracking two guys for that. Again, stuff I'll talk about on my pod tonight. So it's that if they can make it work with Brewster, OU will find the money to close that deal.
All right. People, look, we've been on here for damn near an hour. This is what, the fourth, fifth night in a row. Maybe I don't know how many nights we've been doing this in a row, but
Sunday through Wednesday.
I could have swore we did one Saturday too.
Okay.
We've been at it, and you know what? I'm not fatigued at all. I'm excited. This has been a great portal for us because honestly, probably the biggest difference between this portal cycle and the past is that we're actually, we're killing it pretty early, man. It's out of necessity, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you are getting guys in here that people are truly excited about, and you're doing what you need to do, and you're locking those guys up. So, yeah, go ahead, Chris Mason, answer that question right there. That's a good one.
I'm not recoding it. I'll be recording it. And it's guys. It's going to be focused on high school. I'll do a little recap of the portal, but it's going to be mostly high school
Yeah.
stuff because
So 20. So your 27 stuff, and beyond, that's what you want to go over there with Chris Mason for on his Wednesday night pod. So definitely check him out once he drops that. You're recording or you going live?
I'm going to record it because I need to push an audio pod to my podcast channel.
All right. Well, there you go, people. It's definitely going to drop probably tonight, late tonight. And then obviously you can listen to it early in the morning, give you something to do on the way to work or your workout or whatever you're going to be doing. People, if something happens tomorrow, we will come back, try
Well,
to have another.
we're going to be back tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah. Go
We're
ahead.
going to do. Jason wants to do a show tomorrow at 9 at our regular time, 8 Central 9. So we want to talk a little bit about what's going on with OU and do some playoff picks.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be able to give you more portal stuff there, and we'll get Jason's opinion on it. So with that being said, people, unless there's anything else, out of here.